Beste liefhebbers, ik wens jullie in naam van Antalis en het ganse team welkom te heten. Ik stel voor dat we er aan beginnen. Ik ben zelf Erik de Vos, marketingmanager bij Antalis en zal jullie gastheer zijn voor vandaag. Jullie interesse in onze webinar is voor ons een duidelijk signaal. 1. Er is interesse in het opdoen van kennis om communicatie nog krachtiger te maken. En 2. Papier als medium is nog steeds erg relevant. Niet alleen als drager, maar evenzeer als onderdeel van de boodschap. Wat ik hier eigenlijk mee wil zeggen is: papier is niet dood. Leven papier! Er is niemand beter geplaatst dan onze gastspreker van vandaag om jullie mee op papieravontuur te nemen. I'm going to switch to English in order to make it possible for Jérôme to understand what I'm saying about him and so he can verify I'm only saying the positives about him. Jérôme has worked for 7 years on the side of R.J. Wiggins as brand manager. In this role, he was heavily involved in the development of the philosophy behind the current creative paper collection of R.J. Wiggins. Now, since several years, he's on the Antalis side, in charge of our creative paper portfolio and brands. He recently brought the new All-in branding to market. The All-in Origins collection has only just been released. And looking at the mix and match boxes he will speak about today, he has paper running through his veins. Whenever you have any question throughout the webinar, don't hesitate to type them in the Q&A function of Zoom. And we are very happy to answer them at the end of the webinar. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please fill up your coffee. Fasten your seatbelt. Jérôme, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining. So to start with the topic of the color, I will just share some information from a study from the Loyola University in Maryland, according to which color is registered by the brand before either images or typography. Means like the color is the first thing the brand remembers. So I will try to give you example of how real it is, and we'll go through the development of paper, and really I will insist on the impact of the color. So let's start with a little quiz. Would you recognize this brand? All of them? I guess maybe the one on the left you would recognize, even the one in the middle as well. For the third one, I'm not sure, because without branding, without logo, and without color, it's really difficult to recognize a brand. I give you some hints. So this one with color, still no logo. One of those has a Pantone, an orange Pantone, deep orange Pantone that you might recognize. It's Hermes. And the last one also has the Pantone, and it's Tiffany. So what at stake for the brand? First of all, it's just the brand recognition. In the street, if you see a shopping bag from someone who is like 50 meters away, you will still recognize the brand. You will know this shopping bag is from this brand, even though you don't go on the shopping bag. So this is the first interest for the brands. As well, it's interesting to fight against counterfeiting because some brands, they are copied. Often in Asia, printers, they try to copy the real papers, but they just print it. Why? Whereas a brand, when they use a creative paper, sometimes they make, and sometimes and often they do bespoke paper to have their own colors, then their own texture or embossing. making it impossible for anyone to copy them. Last but not least, is also a question of image consistency. When you're a worldwide company, you're printing everywhere, you want to make sure that your color is the same whether you produce the shopping bag in North America or in Southeast Asia. So having also its own Pantone really makes it easier for the brand to control their image. Quick note about Tiffany, it was one of the first brands to have their own Pantone. So here we see the importance of the color for the brands, and it's not only about the branding, but it's also about the purchase decision. Color, according to David Shaw from Pantone, color is the single most powerful communication tool. It influences between 50 and 85% of the product purchase decision. So now I will share with you an abstract from an article that we have published within the Antalis Creative Power pages on LinkedIn, also pages, inspirational pages that you can find on your local Antalis website. The idea was to look at colors, but with a more cognitive approach with also neurosciences. I will just give you a glimpse of this article and the impact of the color on our body. First, it's the perception of time. There have been examples and studies where we see that people who are watching a loading bar on internet, when it's red, people feel like it lasts longer compared to other colors. Also, on the contrary, when you make a flyer, and if you use cool or cold color, such as blue, for instance, readers would tend to take more time reading the leaflet. So this is for the perception of time. Also, colors have an impact on our impulses and aggressivity. Warm and vivid color are meant to increase the adrenaline rate and to create stronger reaction. And as an example, there has been a study on auctions, and they noticed that when you put a red background for an auction, the overall revenues are higher compared to a neutral background. So we would understand also that the red color, which creates some adrenaline, would encourage people to bid more, and also, I guess, the bidder against each other with the aggressivity and the impulses from the red color, they tend to spend more money. Really invite you to read the full article where you will find much more, even more information on the impact of color. Now I will move to paper topic, to color and paper topic, and I will explain you how a paper mill, as Arjowiggins, is developing its color offer. So the entire current color offer that you may have seen in the paper book or in the various tools have been developed with A3DC, Atelier 3D Couleur, which is a color design agency founded in the 70s. How do they work, and what's the first step for them to work with a paper mill? First of all, they needed to audit. So they have looked at the former offer of Arjowiggins to see what colors are available, what can be done, and so on. So here we see there might be some gaps in the offer. So this was the first step, really we make an audit. Second step, and here I will take an example of what they did with Curious Metallics. It's a really deeper color audit with a chromatic analysis. So there, at this stage, they were analyzing the shades and the saturation to really compare each color from one range to each other. So after this analysis, which have been done on all ranges, come the data crunching and the market analysis. It's important for the colorist, but for the mill, for us to know what do the customer want, what is the trend in color. So they have Yeah, they have looked at all the figures per color, per substance, per type of paper, and per country to see what was missing or what should complete the range. There might be a growing trend for, let's say, brown colors. Then they were more likely to add brown colors in Arjo Wiggins' portfolio. So after these two steps, let's move to the inspiration. How do a color agency get its inspiration? Here we can see a mood board that inspired Curious Metallics as well. Here the inspiration is definitely furniture, decoration, but premium or luxury goods, not IKEA one. Why? Because when you're spending 500 euros for a single chair, or even more money for like more beautiful furniture, you want to make sure this color also will stay for long. You don't want to get bored of the chair you've bought next year because the color is no longer fashionable. So they really also get their inspiration from furniture, but also from automotive, because when someone is buying a car, it's meant to last at least 10 years. So when the car is launched, the color should remain trendy or nice for many years ahead. Next inspiration didn't really apply to Curious Metallics and Keaykolour, but it's the texture inspiration. Because depending on the texture of the paper, one will not see the color in the same way, because if it's super smooth or super rough, the light, which also actually creates the color, won't reflect in the same way. One thing that was very interesting that they shared with us is the color harmony. And they tell us no one is meant to say this color is nice, this color is not nice. It's really subjective. Nevertheless, when it comes to color harmonies, they told us it's almost scientific. You can be objective on the fact that color harmonies are working or not. And there was a huge focus for them on the color harmonies for the creation of the Keaykolour and the Curious Metallics range, because they were meant to be associated together. Last but not least, and this was more used for other ranges like Curious Alchemy, but they also, I mentioned furniture, they also look at what's coming next, the trends, the really long trends in decoration as well. And so here we see the example of Salon del Mobile in Italy. They noticed many innovations in terms of colors, effect, and they also look at this because what applies to furniture maybe could be applied to paper. So it's a way also to be kept up with the trends and to see would we be able to create a new paper with new effects. So this was the inspirational part. Now they needed from this, they have developed concepts. So at the beginning, it's really open when you work with the agency and between the agency and the paper mill. So at the beginning, they developed like a dozen concepts, because the idea was to be very creative and to think out of the box. So here you can see that some concepts, sometimes when they do a brief to the paper mill, they can give tissue, like they can give fabrics, they can give printed colors, but they can give materials. At the bottom here, you see some of the first mood board and the concept for Curious Alchemy. And the way they brief the agency, the paper mill, sorry, is to give them material to try to copy. So this is the first step. Then the next step is the research and development. Then all the technical team, so it's over 20 people at Arjo Wiggins, the R&D expert, could work with the marketing and Atelier 3D Couleur to see if all those concepts can come to life and also help them shortlist some concepts that are easy, achievable, maybe more easily or maybe faster. Depends on which concept and priorities. And then the next step before going to the really industrial trials is to do the lab sample. So here, based on the shortlist of projects and colors selected, you're going to the lab and you produce your own paper. So you've got you take a pulp paper, you mix it together, and then you add dyes and pigments, and you do a lot of mix because you to finally match the one color, the paper needs to dry, so you need to make almost a real paper, and so you do dozen and dozen and hundred samples just to try what is the best combination to match the target color. And those are just lab samples. So from this, we know what is the best recipe or composition for the color target, and we can move to the industrial trials. So these industrial trials is like one paper machine working non-stop for 6 months. Why? Because when you produce luxury and super premium paper as Arjo begins, not only is printability the most important factor, but also to be able to reproduce again and again the same paper. It can be easy to produce a paper that prints well, but the main challenge is really that if I produce a paper this year, next year, I will offer the exact same touch, finish, color, and so on. And this is the challenge. So for one color, or for especially also from various effects, like for curious alchemy, you are producing the paper 3 times, 4 times, 5 times until you're sure that you will be able to produce it over and over with the same quality. And after these trials, for sure, you're going back to the lab to test all the values, the LAB value, color saturation, and so on. And also to make sure that once everything is produced, everything combines perfectly. So this collaboration with Atelier 3D Couleur led to 70 new colors in the paper book 2018. And I will now focus really on Keaykolour and Curious Metallics. So in Keaykolour, here you can see the range. The focus also of the agency was not only to create nice color, but to create a structure of the range that would help designer and end user in selecting their paper and in combining paper together. Here you can see you have 10 colors families. So you have the red, blue, greens, and so on. What's interesting is that you have like a double reading. You can read the colors horizontally, and here you see the colors have the same saturation. So you go from pastel to vivid to darker colors, but they all have the same saturation so that you can combine them. Or you can read the grid vertically, and here the idea is for you to be able to mix and match all the same colors. So all the green colors are meant to be combined with each other, not necessarily the lighter with the one below, but it can be the lighter weight, the lighter color with the vivid one for each of the color family. So we need to help to guide you to mix paper and to mix the colors, let's say, safely, because everything has been designed for this and to create harmonies. And it's actually the same for Curious Metallics. You will see why also afterward. But the idea is really to help customers see and find also the color more easily. I'm looking for red. Okay, I see the red family here. I have like these 4 choices. Again, just to emphasize on this. Again, we have vertical way of mixing the paper or horizontal. Why have they duplicate also this range structure is also for our customer to be able to do the perfect color matching. Here you can see that the two ranges echoes each other, and it's because they have been made and they have been designed to offer perfect pairing. For instance, here we can see the peacock from Curious Metallics and the atoll from Keaykolour. Those papers have the exact same color, but one is matte, is a rough finish. The other is metallic, has a subtle metallic effect. That's the only difference, but you can really combine them perfectly. And so on with the magma and the chili pepper, super gold, Indian yellow, and so on and so on. So we need to help you how to combine papers. Also, something very interesting, it's not only about the combination, but it's also about how you combine the paper and which share importance you give to one paper compared to the other. Here we're seeing 3 papers, the 3 are the same, but depending on how you combine them, which one you put forward or has more space than the other, it's definitely another effect, another visual effect. So with 3 papers, yeah, you have various combination possibles. Speaking about color combination, I will move to the new Begin set of tools for Curious Metallics and Keaykolour. Again, you will have the opportunity to receive the tool for free. I will explain you this a bit later. To present these tools, I will show you a short video that explains perfectly what's inside the boxes and how it works. Again, the color families. And the yellow Keaykolour is really interesting for its high bulk. It's perfect for embossing, hot stamping, and so on. Then beautiful 100% recycled option with Keaykolour particle. Metallic also has one of the best bulk in the market, and really a subtle shimmer. Very interesting. Here you see the 20 perfect color pairs, which are also incredible. The idea is not only to make perfect pairing, but for you to create and play to create combination while playing with the box. Having presented this tool, and as the focus today was really on the colors, I will try to give you some tips and some figures or information if you needed to compare, consider both options, printing colors on white paper or printing on colored paper. So if we compare printing color or printing on colors, regarding the setup is a bit more complex when you print white paper because it involves more colors, so more minimum 4 color, but can be up to 8 or more depending on the press. So this need adjustment, this preparation also for the file, but also at the printer. When you start the production, you need to be at the press and adjust and do all the fine tuning with the printer, with the operator, and this takes time. Whereas when you print on colored paper, yes, you can do solid, you can do a lot of color on color paper, but most of the time, as the color is part of the design, actually, it's an element of the design, we see people using one or two color, depending on the color of the paper, metallic ink, white, black ink. And sometimes it's enough. One beautiful embossing and one color, we can do the job, or even just a varnish. For instance, a gloss varnish over Keaykolour can be enough to have a beautiful impact. As well, something that needs to be considered during the setup and of the file that will be sent to the printer is also the underneath color. Should you need like a white base if you're printing on dark colors, and if you want to have a high contrast, then you need to prepare also this white base within your file. If we're comparing the price, just know that when you have the price from the printer for the project, it's recommended to also request a proof before the production. So this has a cost. Also, because, as I said, you need more time by the printer to adjust the setting, the color, and also because you will need more ink, this has an impact on the cost, which is still which is still below printing on color, because we know that colored paper are more expensive. This is also why, depending on the dyes, there are various prices. The more dyes or pigments you put in the paper, the more expensive it is. This is why often you have prices for light, medium, or deep colors. But the print process can partially offset this cost. As I said, color is the one element of the overall design, and you don't need to do too much, especially with a creative paper. If you take a Keaykolour or curious metallics, you won't do so many print effects because the paper itself is beautiful enough. Then it comes to your design, the typo you apply, and so on, or the way you will create some folding, creasing, and so on. What's interesting also is that you will avoid, for instance, color edging. If you want to have something, a really nice book, for instance, a black book with white paper, it's not so nice because you have the white edge. Whereas black book, black paper, and it's really looks more premium. Regarding the quality, just few information. So if you print on white paper, just know that from one paper to the other, from coated to uncoated, from white to off-white or super white, the print effect won't be exactly the same. Oh, sorry. Also, color variation may appear for long print run. From the first sheet to the last one, there might be some color variation. So we'll discuss this topic a bit later again. While when you're printing on color, as I said, the focus of paper of Arjowiggins is really to provide you with the same paper quality and shade again and again, so there is no risk. And also from the first page to the last one, it will be the exact same quality. And it has the advantage of having no white edges. So now some tips on what to do, what to avoid. So tips for printing colors on white paper. As I said, there might be color variation from the first to the last page. And also for solid colors, or when you're printing a logo, it's safer, maybe better to use a spot color. Or what can be done, and this is what also is done by huge corporate companies, is like you print CMA, and on top of this, you add a fifth color, which is the Pantone color. This will really help having better consistency across the print production. Also, do think of the print guide and all the ICC profile that we make available online. So it will help for the setup of the paper, of the file, but also by the printer. It will make your life easier and the setup also faster. Be careful of the total ink coverage. So for uncoated paper, it's maximum 280% to avoid ink rubbing. Also, when you come to small text, avoid printing them in 4 colors. Rather go for a spot color. It will avoid misregistration, and also using a spot color, depending on the press of your printer, it could really help also do versioning. So if your printer has a 5 or 6 color, you have 1 spot color, for instance, for the English, a 6-1 for the French, and you can do also some saving while doing the production. Now, printing on colored paper, do consider that if you want to have a super white on a dark paper, HP Indigo grades or screen printing will offer the most opaque option. White is for sure available in offset. It's easier in a HUV or UV offset with a white base, but then it has a cost, because if you need to make 1 or 2 white base plus HUV and so on, sometimes screen printing or HP Indigo can achieve the same, if not better. Think of playing with various colors within a range, because the color within a range, they are meant and they are designed to be combined together. It can really have visual impact, and also it doesn't necessarily have an impact on the cost. And I will show it to you right after. I've mentioned it, but I want to emphasize, yeah, use white or civil base on very open paper. Like the smoother the paper is, the less open it is. So yeah, people, if you want to print on a dark Keaykolour, great, for sure. If you want a vivid color or a real contrast with the paper, you will need to put one or two white base or silver. Be careful also when you're choosing a black paper. Some of them contain carbon, which can cause oxidation to foiling. Fortunately, Antalis creative papers are only without carbon black, so it's safe for you. There won't be any issue. Last but not the least, if you have a packaging project, or if you do project that for printed objects are meant to be on display in the shops for a long time, paper is really sensitive to direct UV light. So some shades may fade away. The more vivid the shade, the worse light fastness it has. So it's also an information that you can find on our technical data sheet on our website. It just most of all the papers, they can stay up to 3 months without moving. After this, you will really need to be careful and check also with us whether the paper can be remain in display for 6 months or so. I will show you some inspiration from mix and match and real examples. This is not like a paper mill or examples here. So on Keaykolour at the bottom in green, you have a project from Imprimerie Marais in Paris, where the designers, they have combined Keaykolour Kiwi, Keaykolour Indian Yellow, and Keaykolour Snow White. Keaykolour Kiwi Indian Yellow, for instance, in the grid, they will be at the same level. So this is an example to show how the grid and how you can mix the paper. Also on top of it, so we got, sorry for the name, Blauwdruk from the Netherlands. They did the business cards. Here you see it's only embossing. So here they have combined the paper. When you're using like techniques like embossing, whatever the color of the paper is the same cost. You just pay for the number of sheets that will be printed or the number of business cards you will produce. Whether you mix or match the paper, it doesn't have an impact on the cost, but visually, this has more impact than if you were only if they had only made their business cards on one color. I will show you the same example kind of same example on curious metallics. On the left, we can see Money Pocket from Singapore. We see it's the same design. The only difference is the color of the foil. So here, this is something very easy to achieve for the printer. Just move the foil. Yeah, maybe do some slight adjustment because from one foil to the other, the heat should be adjusted. But that's very easy. It's not like printing various colors and doing many books where you want to switch the color of the cover on white paper, that here you have to print again and do all the setup again and again. So it's really economical. Also, we see it at the bottom with boxes. One design, and then from one design, you just change the color of the paper. So this was it for me. I hope it was all clear and interesting, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions and remind you that you will have the opportunity to request the boxes that I've just presented for free.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Jérôme, for your presentation. As indicated at the beginning of the webinar, you can use the Q&A function below to ask some questions. So just to stipulate and to answer one of the questions already, the tools are indeed readily available for free. So you will be receiving from us a email with a link to the recording of the webinar today. And so you will also get a link to order your version of the mix and match tools for free. So don't hesitate to reach out. We have received very, very positive feedbacks already on the tools for those who have had them already. So don't be shy. We are happy to share them with you. Okay, then let's see here. There's a question from Sisi. Thank you for the webinar. Can we request some samples for our creative studio? Well, I'll be taking that one for you, Sisi. So indeed, as Antalis, we do have a sample service. So you can get in touch with your local Antalis contacts to request samples. And many have done that in the past months, specifically on these qualities, on these brands. We've seen quite a significant increase in sample requests, but also in projects being developed with these papers now that we are putting some additional focus on them. So thank you for your question. Another question, one specifically for you, Jérôme. It's a more technical one. Can these papers be used with digital presses?
Yes, so most Keaykolour and curious metallics are compatible with dry toner presses. So depending on the press, it works better or not. And we can also say, we are able to say, okay, this paper works well on iGen, but maybe not so much on a Ricoh. So we have guidelines that are available on the website. But basically, yes, up to 300 GSM, everything goes pretty well on any dry toner presses. Then it's a question of color. Deep colors, sometimes with the ink of the dry toner presses, doesn't really work. But you also have some items that are available for HP Indigo, meaning they have a special treatment to offer perfect printability on HP Indigo, and they're also available in ready-to-use formats, SRA3 Plus and B2, because HP Indigo really requires special treatment and special sizes for the paper.
Okay, thank you, Jérôme. Are there any other questions, tips, or tricks that Jérôme can help you with?
Sorry?
I don't see any other questions coming in, so I propose. Hold on, there's one from Chris. We regularly have printing orders with internet printer print.com on HP Indigo, but they do not have these papers. That's a good comment, Chris. What can we do? Well, on our side, we will be very happy to reach out to the company, to Marco, and to see how we can incorporate them. But I would say on your side, please don't be shy and recommend them to reach out to us as well, indicating that you would like to realize some project on these papers. So if we both put some effort into it, then let's hope we can achieve that. But we will definitely note it on our side to reach out to them and bring up your question. There's another one here. Will there be a new Antalis box with a good overview of all papers? Coming from Dave. Well, Dave, that's a very good question, but a little bit wide open. So when you mean an overview of all our papers, a box, I can say no. We do have several tools in which we present different ranges. So on coated, offset papers, recycled, creative papers. For our Wiggins, we have several tools: the paper book, the mix and match boxes, different swatches and fans. The same for Olin. There's many others to come as well. We have a very exciting new tool from R.J. Wiggins setting up for the coming weeks. So many good stuff. One centralized tool capturing the whole collection is not something that we are currently working on, as our collection is very dynamic as well. But so if you have a specific interest in kind of paper quality, don't hesitate to reach out and we can see how we can further support you. All right, Chris, thank you for recommending our papers to print.com. Highly appreciated. Are there any other questions from any of you? Don't be shy. Let's leverage the fact that we have Jérôme in our middle to raise any question that we might have for him.
While maybe someone is wondering what question to ask, I will just explain one thing. So in the boxes, you will find also the embossing patterns. So for Keaykolour, there are 13 embossing patterns and available either on stock or on demand. Now we have a service where Antalis, we are able to offer you any of the 48 colors from Keaykolour in any of these 13 patterns and only from one rim. So yeah, if you have a project, you're not, let's say Louis Vuitton, you cannot make your bespoke paper with your bespoke colors, but you really can stand out and create something unique if you decide to combine one Keaykolour paper for them with one of the 13 embossing. And these 13 embossings that you will find in the Keaykolour box, you can also apply them on curious metallics. So from it, you can apply them from 120 GSM up to 300, 350. We recommend the 300 GSM where you will have the best effect. So for book covers and so on, can be really interesting and really unique.
All right, we have a new question from Els. Are the sizes of the envelopes expanded in, for example, C6?
I'm afraid not. Envelopes, to be honest, are very local. It's very difficult. It's pretty difficult for a paper mill or for us in the headquarters to find the best assortment because all countries, they have a different standard. Standards in, sorry, speaking of France, standard for the square, for envelopes in France, it's 17 by 17, but in Sweden, it's 15.5 by 15.5.
So we have quite standard assortment, that's for sure, but I'm sure your local Antalis partner can also guide you and offer you a bespoke offer for envelopes.
Yes, indeed. So of course, depending on projects, we can always look into having a envelope production setup specifically for certain sizes. Thank you for that question. Else, I saw another one coming in via the chat. Matti, looking forward to the boxes. Thumbs up, that's very good. Are the samples available on A4 or A3 for test printing? Well, samples are indeed available on A4, but as well on large format for test printing. So both are available, yes. Any other questions? There's nothing coming in so far. So I would say, as in an auction, going once, going twice, sold. Let's leave it at that. Thank you all for your attendance today. Thank you for, thank you, Dave, for attending. So thank you all for joining us. As being said, the recording and the link to order the tools will be sent to you, I presume, tomorrow. And yeah, let's keep paper alive. Let's keep on being creative and bringing beautiful paper products to the world. Thank you all. Have a nice afternoon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.